Okay, Rabbi Sai, the last shir in volume 15, before we start Hilchot Shabbat, we have today Hilchot Tfilat Arvit, B'Kriyat Shema Lamita. So we have Tfilat Arvit, the nighttime prayer, also known as Mariv, right, in the Ashkenaz world. In fact, I saw the Vilna calls it Arvit as well. If you saw Rabbi Gifter's book, they have a schedule of the yeshiva in Telz, and the yeshiva has the schedule for the night prayer, and it says Arvit, doesn't say Mariv. So it's interesting. But anyway, Mariv, Arvit, let's take a look. All right, the first thing we have to establish is the chov, or the obligation to pray Arvit. Is it an obligation? Is it not an obligation? What is it? Okay, Tfilat Erev Eila Kvad. There's no fixed hour for Arvit. What does it mean it's not fixed? Does it mean you can pray throughout the night? So then let's say in the Gemara, you can pray it all night. What does it mean it's not kvad, it's not set? It's like Command Amar, it's like saying Tfilat Arvit Rishut. It's optional. You want to pray Arvit, you pray Arvit. You don't want to pray Arvit, you don't pray Arvit. Now, if we have machlokes Abaye and Rava, who do we go like? Go like Rava. Rava in this Gemara says clearly, Arvit is a reshut. It is a optional. And is it really optional? So let's take a look. We have Tosfot, and Tosfot says, "What are you talking about? It's not optional. It's not optional because when it came to the halacha, you look in the middle of Tosfot, he says when it comes to Yal v'Yovo, we say, you don't have to go back to Yal v'Yovo if you missed it at night, is because we don't sanctify Rosh Chodesh at night. If Arvit is a reshut, then don't go back because it's a reshut. It's optional. That's not the reason why you're telling me not to go back for Yal v'Yovo. You're telling me you don't sanctify Rosh Chodesh at night. So it must be that it's not optional. It's not voluntarily. What does it mean that it's reshut? Reshut is a different context here. Not optional, I can or I can't. And it's passing to Azar Minan to the Chet Tfilat Arvit, push away Tfilat Arvit Mipanea of a Lachinam Ein Lo Levata. So Tosfot says, you know what it means, Reshut? Optional? That means if I have another mitzvah that only I can do now, and if I'm going to do it, I'm not going to be able to pray Arvit, skip Arvit, and go and do that mitzvah instead. And as an example, here in the Yalkut Yosef, he brings an example of this because it's halach l'maisa. So in Simon 236 over here, in halacha 14, he writes interestingly, ha'oisek b'simchas chasen v'kal. You're being misameh chasen v'kal. V'ein sham mi she'ismecham. And there's no one else that can make them happy. Right? You got some shtick going on that no one else can do. Or Misha Isaac Bechol Mitzvah. Anyone's busy in any mitzvah. Over it, Koshi, that it's going to pass. If you're not going to do it, it's going to pass. Ve'ein lo efshirut litpalel arvit. And if he's going to, if he's, he can't, if he's going to do this mitzvah, he's not going to be able to pray arvit. Patur militpalel arvit. He's patur from praying arvit. She'al zeh amru tfilat arvit reshut. This is what it means. Tfilat arvit is optional. Ve'ein chilik b'zeh ben tfilat el Shabbat. And there's no difference between Friday night Arvit with Tfilat Arvit Shel Yemot HaChol. No different. Tfilat Arvit all the time is optional in this sense that if I have another mitzvah that is overet, that is passing by, and you need to do this mitzvah, you can do that mitzvah and not pray Arvit.
Does he have to pray by himself after that?
Well, if
he missed the boat. He has to pray by himself.
If it's still in the prayer time that he can pray Arvit, then yes. But what we're saying is he can skip all Arvit because it's a mitzvah that only he can do. Does he have to do tashlumin after he skips it? A good question. I'm not sure. He's saying it's potter when it's pala. If he's potter, then there's no tashlumin, right? It's only you only do tashlumin if you were obligated to daven at that time. But assume not. If he's potter. It says potter when it's palel arvit. Shal zeh amr tfilat arvit reshut. And this is what it means. Tfilat arvit is reshut. So halacha l'maisa is like Tosfot says over here, that it's reshut in the sense that if busy with another mitzvah, you don't have to make time to pray Arvit. The Rif gives another understanding, and that this is only when one does not daven, but when does daven tefillah Arvit, he has taken it upon as an obligation. The last line over there in source 3, noig amo l'shaveh kechova. So the Rif wants to say that originally Arvit was a reshut. That was his original takana. You don't have to, but over time, people have accepted it as a chov, as an obligation. And, right.
It's not like anything. It's saying mincha. It doesn't have to find
True.
middle of something. You can't down mincha. Usually say same thing.
So here he's saying it's a little different over here. So with other mitzvah, pater and mitzvah, he doesn't have to pray. But if you read the halachas, when they bring it down, they tell you find ways to pray. And don't do that. Like if you really don't have to. That's what it brings down with tzedakah collectors and stuff like that. Here we're saying you don't have to even be worried about that. It's like totally pater. It comes down to it. I hear you. You're saying I see mitzvah, pater mitzvah, right? It's a good question. It's a very good question.
Maybe in that case you have to mincha.
You have to make, you would have to make tashlumin because it would be a chov. So that's the whole question. We learned that back when we were doing that. Is how do you view it? You view him as an onus who missed it, or do you view him that he had a patur from the beginning? That was that was there as well. We had that question back then. But that's very good. Okay, so now we have understanding of Arvit according to the Rif was originally a reshut, later is a chov. Today it's a chov. Tosfot, it's a reshut in the sense that if you're busy with another mitzvah, you're a pater from tefillat Arvit. Okay, now comes the time 315, page 315, the earliest time for Arvit and Kriyat Shema. So, when is the earliest time? So we have two opinions. We have Rabbi Yehuda that says Plaga Mincha, right? And we talked about that yet last week already. So Plaga Mincha is from Mincha Ketana halfway through, so an hour and a quarter in after Mincha Ketana. A person can already start praying out of it. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that means Plaga Mincha is the end for Mincha, right? And then Plaga Mincha on, you can pray Arvit. That was Rabbi Yehuda. And then you had the Rabbanon, and the Rabbanon said Arvit starts from Tzeta Kochavim, right? And you're allowed to pray Mincha up until Tzeta Kochavim, right? That's what we saw last week as well. So now the question really is, what is Tzeta Kochavim? What is this coming out of the stars, right? Tzeta Kochavim. Well, how do we understand this? So it goes back to the famous Mishnah, Masechtas Brachos, the first Mishnah that everybody has learned at some point. Meimosai Karines Shema be'arvin. When do we pray Shema at night? Mishasha Kohanim Nichnosim La'achel Mitrumasan. When the Kohanim go in to eat the Truma. What is this Kohanim going to eat the Truma? It's Tzeisa Kochavim. So say Tzeisa Kochavim. No, we want to teach you an extra thing that the Kohanim go to eat at Tzeisa Kochavim. Okay, very nice. Now, what is Tzeisa Kochavim? So it says in source 6, Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah says Tzeisa Kochavim. It's when the stars come out, and we're talking about 3 average stars, right? He says the large stars are visible even during the day. Small stars can only be seen at night. Average size stars come out at Tzeta Kochavim. And then he says nobody knows what average stars are. Average stars, small stars, nobody knows. So therefore, we look for small stars. And when small stars are visible, then you know it's definitely night, and that's Tzeta Kochavim. Okay, not very helpful to us because we live in the city, and in the cities, other than the pollution and the extra lights and all those other things, you're not seeing stars. So, what? Light pollution. So you can't really see the stars. You can't see anything. So we would rather have a mathematical calculation to figure out when Tzeta Kochavim is. So he brings Masechah Shabbat. And by the way, Rabotai, he even writes here in the notes, he says on the top over here, he says, we're not going to be dealing with Tzedek HaChavim we're going to deal with it very shortly here. He says in volume 17, when we get to talk about Motzei Shabbat, we're going to delve into Tzedek HaChavim a lot deeper with a lot more opinions. But for now, we're going to have to suffice with a small, brief overview of Tzedek HaChavim. So he says as follows. Shir ben hashmashos bekam. Ben hashmashot is the time between day and night, right? It's those what we say 13.5 seasonal minutes. Ben hashmashot. It really means twilight, right? The time in between. So how much is it? Amar Yehuda, Amar Rava, Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Shlosha chilkei mil. 3 portions of a mil. Okay, so a mil is a certain amount. 3 portions of a mil. The Gemara says, "My shlosh chilkei mil." What does it mean? 3 portions of a mil. Ilema tilta palge mila, nema mil umechta. You're saying it means 3/2 of a mil, so say a mil and a half. Why are you saying 3 chalakim? Ela tilta mila. Rather, it means 3/3 of a mil, right? So name a mil. Just say a mil. Rather, tilta revi'e mila. Rather, it means 3/4 of a mil. Okay, so whatever a mil is, 3/4 is bein hashmash. If you take out your Zmanim app, I take out your My Zmanim app, right? The My Zmanim one I like because for this lesson you can see it clearly. You take the My Zmanim app and you're going to look for tzates, and they're going to have 3 different tzates over there or so. They have tzate nightfall 3/4 of a mil. That's your first nightfall. Then it says nightfall stars, and then it says nightfall 4 mil. Because there's another opinion in the Gemara that says nightfall is after 4 mil. Whose opinion is that? No, that's Rabbeinu Tam, right? If a mil is 18 minutes, in order to walk a mil is 18 minutes, Rabbeinu Tam is 72 minutes because he understands it to be 4 mil. It is the Banish Mashot to take the Kochavim, right? But according to the Chachamim over here, at least our Gemara is saying that 3/4 of a mil is Tzedek HaChavim. Now the question is how much is a mil? All right, and then you have to get 3/4 of it. So he brings the Rambam, and the Rambam says, what's a mil? Mil is the time it takes for read the English. The measurement of the mil, of the time it takes for dough to ferment, is the time it takes for an average purchase to walk 1 mil, which is 2/5 of an equal hour. What's 2/5 of an equal hour? An equal hour is 60 minutes. What's 2/5 of an equal hour? So divide 60 into 5. It's 12 minutes apiece, right? 2/5, it's going to be 24 minutes. You take 24 minutes, he's saying a mil is 24 minutes. Now you have to take 3/4 of that mil, right? That turns into 18 minutes. So according to the Rambam, Vanish Mashot is 18 minutes. Because he holds a mil is 24 minutes. But what about Chacham Ovadia that always says a mil is how much? It's 18 minutes, right? So what is 3/4 of 18 minutes? 13.5. That's how we get to the 13.5 seasonal minutes. Okay? Because based on this Gemara, we're saying a mil is 18 minutes and a Tzedek HaChavim is 3/4 of a mil. 3/4 of a mil is 13.5. Okay? Now, even though this has to do with walking of a mill, but somehow Sha'od Zmaniyot are still involved in this, right? Because 13.5 season, it's seasonal minutes, it still flexes. So we'll have to go further into Tzedek HaChavim in volume 17, but this is the approach to it. 1/4 of a mil, okay, 13.5 minutes. Somehow it turns out to be seasonal. I don't know. I guess in certain times of the year you walk faster, right? So it's lesser time. Okay, and then he brings in the notes. So you take a look at that little box, and he writes, like, according to the Rabbah Sekel, is 3/4 of 24 minutes, which is 18 minutes. There are also opinions a mil is 18 minutes. That will make it 13.5. There's another opinion that a mil is 22.5 minutes. So then it turns out to be 17 minutes, right? And that's possibly why Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul says you have 20 minutes for Banish Mashot. Because he holds that the mil is a little bit more. right? More than 24 minutes. You would have to say the mill's 20 something, 26. Because if it's 24, it's 18. 26, 27, then you'll get to 20, right? So you have to, it depends on how you calculate the mill. All right, so that is how you get to Tzit Kochavim. That is the earliest time that a person, according to Chachamim, should be praying Arvit. Okay? That's the time of the Chi of Shema and all that. All right. And the Bir Gra shows us that not only is Tzit Kochavim based on that time of 3/4 of a mil, but it's also changes because of Neit Achama, when dawn, when sunset is. He also says it depends where in the world you are, the latitude of how the sun rises in that place, and the sun sets in that place. All that plays into the game. Now, okay. Now that we say, according to the Chachamim, you're supposed to be praying at Tzit Kochavim. Tzit Kochavim is 13.5 seasonal minutes after Shkia. So when we're in the shul and we're praying Arvit early, right? Because that's not our Tzit Kochavim. This is going according to Ashkenaz calculation. When they asked me to change it, I said I'm not going to change it because we are for Shabbat, Motzei Shabbat. Rav Meir Elbaz says that according to Chamovadia in Eretz Yisrael, it's always a half hour after Shkia. In Chutz La'aretz, he says to hold, no matter where in Chutz La'aretz you are, you should hold 40 minutes after Shkia, and it comes out. So 5:17 for Tzit Kochavim would be 40 minutes. What would be 40 minutes? It would be 5:13, right? 5:13. So we add on 4 more minutes, so it's fine. Okay. So because of Shabbat, that's why I didn't want to change it to Tzit Kochavim. Mercha asked, "Do you want to change to Kochavim to make it 13.5 minutes?" First I said yes, and then I said, "You know what? I don't want to do it because people are going to get confused and they're going to take Shabbat out too early." And we, even though during the week we say it's 13.5 seasonal minutes, Chavaji said when it comes to Shabbat, you want to wait 40 minutes in Chutz La'aretz. So for that reason, we leave it as what it says there. But for your knowledge, is that Tzit Kochavim for us is really 13.5 seasonal minutes.
Yeah.
So if Shkia today is 4:33, 13.5 seasonal minutes today is probably 11 minutes, right? Because of the way the sun and the right. So you're talking already. Tzit Kochavim was 4:45 today, okay? And we started Arvit here 4:40, so we were a little bit earlier than Tzit Kochavim, which is fine. But that's just the way to calculate it. All right. In your mind, you can do easy calculations like that. All right. Fine. Now, we have seen the time to pray Arvit at Tzit Kochavim. But we in the shul, we're praying early. So what are we doing by saying all the Shema early? It's too early. The Brachot said, now we say you can, Rabbi Yehuda said you can pray Arvit after Plaga Mincha. Fine. But Shema has to be said after Tzit Kochavim. So the Brachot said that. So what are we doing? So he brings the Yerushalmi. Tanya, Kari Kaidim Lekain, someone who's davening early. Well, Yotzi Deichavosai. He's not Yotzi Deichava. He's not saying Shema. In Mekain Lama Kari knows the basic Knesset. So then why are we reading Shema in the Beit Knesset when we're praying Arvit early? Samar Rabbi Yossi and Korin Ota Beit Knesset Bishvil Etzei Deichavato. We're not reading it in order to be Yotzi Shema. Because you don't want to just get up and daven the Shmona Esrei. You have to start with some Torah, right? That's why we always say Ashrei before we go into Shmona Esrei. Even you're doing a Tashlumin or something like that, if you're doing Tashlumin right after one another, then you would go straight. But if you're just remembering and later after daven now, you would say always Ashrei. Ne'ilah, we say Ashrei before. We always want to go and we talk some Divrei Torah. You don't just go into the Shmona Esrei. So that's what we're doing. Says the Yerushalmi. So the question now is, so we have to repeat. And the question is, why are we saying the Birkat Kriyat Shema? The Birkat of Shema. Right? If there's no, the Chiyuv is not there, then why am I saying the Bracha? If you look at that box over there, Rav Haigon, quoting the Rashba and the Ravad, understand that the brachot before and after Kriyat Shema should not be recited while davening early. You would not say it, according to Rav Haigon, according to the Rashba, according to the Ravad. Okay? And he brings the Tzurba over here. The Rashba brings it. He says, Mitpal Arvit, Lacha Korim Bizman Kriyat Shema, Lemismach Geula Tefillah Shel Arvit. And they says they daven Marv, and afterwards they recreate Shema at its time, without concern for Geula, immediately preceding the Shmona Esrei. According to the Rashba, well, you're not supposed to say Kriyat Shema beforehand. You do not say the bracha, so you're not saying Ga'al Yisrael, and you're just praying Shmona Esrei. You don't do the beginning. Okay? They just pray the Amidah alone. Says the Ravan, he says, don't daven like this. Don't skip Kriyat Shema. Just say Shmona Esrei for Arvit, and then later on bring it back. He says, not good. But if you have to, then there's no putting Geula L'Tfilah for Arvit. It's not done. Because they're holding you don't say those brachot. Tamir ben Yonah says that, so he asks, since it's not the time for Kriyat Shema when it's read in Shul, how can one fulfill the obligation to recite the brachot if it's not night concerning Kriyat Shema? One can answer that although it's not fully night, as the stars have not emerged, nevertheless, once the sun has set, so Shkia, right, and it's night concerning Tfilat Arvit, we will also treat it as night regarding the berachot. Okay, so that he seems to be saying from Shkia, right? That when it's Shkia, it's somewhat night, so you can say the brachot of Kriyat Shema before and after. So now the Rashba himself says, he says as follows. He says, do not be surprised, as the brachot of Kriyat Shema are not really brachot of Kriyat Shema. Here he says, the brachot of Kriyat Shema is not brachot of Kriyat Shema, page 320. The brachot shel Kriyat Shema enam brachot shel Kriyat Shema mamash. It's not. It's just brachot. Why? Because ki birkat Torah and birkat mitzvot. Birkat Torah and birkat mitzvot. He says because if there was the case, if Kriyat Shema's brachot were for Kriyat Shema, the bracha should have been levarech likro et Shema. The bracha should have said Baruch Atah Hashem likro et Shema, to read Shema like he did with Koah Shofar. But that's not what you're saying. El brachotehen shetkenu mipnei atzman. Ve'ein barchan kodem zmanam shel Shema ein bekach klum. So says the Rashba, the brachas is night brachas. It's nothing to do with Shema. It's just birkat Shema. That's what we say, birkat that we say before and after Shema. But it's not Shema's brachas. And therefore you can say it before the Zman of Shema. It's brachas for night.
What is the bracha of Shema?
There is no bracha on Shema. There's no bracha on reading Shema. There's birkat Shema, which is not birkat of Shema. That's what he's saying. There's a Shulchan Aruch. Man kriyat Shema Malayla Mishat Yitzias Shloisha Kachavim Kitanim. You need the 3 small stars. We don't know small stars, big stars. So we say small stars. Ve'emhu me'onen yamtin ad sheyetzeh safek melibo. Right? What do you say? Me'onan. One should wait until on a cloudy day. Right? Ve'emhu me'onan yamtin ad sheyetzeh safek melibo. Ve'em kara kodem lekein chos v'kara otav below brachot. If he read it too early, he has to go back and read it again. Ve'em ad tzibur makdimim likor kriyat Shema mevod yom. They're reading when it's still day, not even Shkia. Before Shkia, Miv'od Yom, from Plag HaMincha, like we're doing. Yikra imohem, read with them. Kriyat Shema, u'brichoteya, Kriyat Shema and the brachos. V'yifal imohem, and daven with them. U'kshe'gi azman, and when it comes time, correct Kriyat Shema below brachot. You'll read Kriyat Shema without brachot. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins exactly like the Rashba in his Chuvas Rashba. Rashba, that he's saying Kriyat Shema's brachos are not Shema's brachos, it's brachos and it's not related to Shema. Therefore, you can say all those brachos, even mib'od yom. It's not like the Rebbeinu Yonah who said only from Shkia, but rather even mib'od yom, you can already say those brachos. Says the Mishnah Brura, one may lean to follow Yehuda and begin Arvit prior to Shkia, if it won't take place later. And Sfardim today are often more lenient and recite both Mincha and Arvit after Plag Mincha and before sunset, even Lechatchila. We saw that already last week of how we hold, the Beit Yosef already says that holds Tfilos the Rabbanon, so we're not going to start being very makbid with the times, and therefore you can hold it both, and it's not called a contradiction of two opinions. Yeah, we saw that already last week, and we can hold it like that Lechatchila. Yeah. Yeah. Probably better to wait for Shkia, but if you can daven 100%.
Everybody will go away.
Yeah, right, 100%. Like I said last week, I said we say Tehillim and say two halachot, two Perek Tehillim, and say two halachot in under 5 minutes, and I'm still losing people in the time. So, right. So yeah, you have to make sure we have the minyan. Okay, and everyone prays. All right, now, fine. I said Kriyat Shema during Arvit when I prayed Mib'od Yom. Now I have to repeat Kriyat Shema. How much of the Kriyat Shema do I have to repeat? So Rashi in Masechtas Brachos Daf Beis says Kriyat Parsha Rishona Shadam Koral Mitato Yatsa. All he needs to do is to say Shema ve'ahavta. That's it. Yeah, just the first paragraph, according to Rashi, just the first paragraph, and you're done. And you can even do it part of your Kriyat Shema Lamita before you go to sleep. You don't have to say it again, like right after tape. You can just do it at night when you're going to sleep. Okay? Toso says it's very surprising because people are you only used to read the first section before going to sleep. So Rashi was right. One would need to read all. So he says one needs to read Shlosha Parashot Hayolol Likrot. He has to read all three. He said you have to read all three. How much you have to read for Kriyash Malamita? That's the question. Why do you have to read all three? That's what he's saying. How much you have to read Kriyash Malamita? Rashi said, so what do you want me to answer more? Rashi already said, the Kriyat Shema on the bed, you be Yotze, Kriyat Shema. Okay? So Taisa says it's not enough one parak, you have to do all three. Hamid ben Yonah, they say as follows. In the Beit Knesset, you should read Kriyat Shema with its brachot and daven with no intent. Lo yichavim l'tzet yidei chova Kriyat Shema, v'oteh Kriyat. Elom b'tfilah mitach v'divrei Torah. V'yotze yidei Kriyat Sabrachas v'achach kishayah b'beita kardem sheyachal. So you see, Rabbeinu Yonah already says you can't do it at night before the bed, before you eat. Right? Achar yitziyat tzakochavim. Once the stars come out, Yikra Osa. Then that's when you say it. But it's Kavan Tzidei Chova. V'yikra Osa Kula b'Mora of Kavana Salev. He has to read the whole thing. He has to have Kavana. But if he doesn't want to read by Yomer, just wants to say Ve'hafta and Ve'hayom Shemoa, fine. Sagi leBehachi. That's enough. Right? Just has to do two. And okay, some people he says to do it with Kavana. They don't do it in 20 seconds. You saw his what he said. He said you have to do it with kavana. Okay. He says because the mitzvah of why we say Vayomer to mention about Mitzrayim, leaving Mitzrayim. And you already said it. Yeah, it was a little early to come, but who said you have to say it after Tiskacham that you left Mitzrayim? Okay, when you said Arvit, you already also saying at night that I left Mitzrayim. So you don't have to say it a second time. Says the Shagat Aryeh over here, Shagas Aryeh, and he says no. If you said Vayomer Bein Hashmashot, you were not Yotzer Yechova of mentioning leaving Mitzrayim at night. The Tzarech Lichzor B'Lahaskir B'Laila Vadai. You have to go ahead and say Vayomer again at night. And Pashat, the minig in the Olam is that when we repeat Kriyat Shema, we're repeating it all three sections. We're not stopping at one. We're not stopping at two. We are doing all three. And the minig Olam is that when you're saying Kriyat Shema Lamita is also to say all three sections. All right. Also, there's 248 words in all three sections with Hashem Elokechem Emet, which also provides protection on your whole body. Therefore, the girls should be instructed to say Kel Melech Ne'eman as well in the beginning. I'll get them to 252 for their 252 limbs and stuff that they have in their body. So that's what we do. Yes. So Rabbeinu Yonah, if you paid attention, Rabbeinu Yonah said his lashon was he said after he prayed Arvit early and he comes to his house, before he eats. Okay, so scratch out that line. After comes out the stars. Now you can't scratch out that because the stars come out every night. So you didn't eat, it's your problem. But you have to read it. So Rabbeinu Yonah is saying you have to read it right after Teta Kochavim. What? I'm just telling you what he said. We'll go through it.
He wants to take the leniency of
I know.
Rashi, and then he wants to take the chumrah of Rabbeinu Yonah. You have to decide where you are. If in the case that you're tired, said.
Okay. Now, Rabotai, we saw the Shulchan Aruch. We saw that Shulchan Aruch. We saw it above. He said the shul's praying early, daven with them. That's what we do, right? But there's the Maaseh Rav. Who's the Maaseh Rav? This is the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon, the Tzaddik Bracha. He instructed, and this is the way he followed. He said, now remember, we've been learning about tefillah for a long time now. What do we say is the number one thing about tefillah? What's the most important halacha about tefillah? What's the most important part of tefillah?
Time.
Time. Thank you, Malkiel. Someone's listening. Time. When is the proper time to pray? So the Vilna Gaon is going with this idea of time and saying tefillat arvit bizmanat dafka afil b'Shabbat va'afil b'yachid imi efshar la'asot asar b'zman kriyat shema. Says the Vilna Gaon, the proper time of praying Arvit is after Tzeta Kochavim. Even if you won't have a minyan, pray alone. But you're praying at the right time. Now, our whole thing is that Chag HaMincha is already the right time. That's how we get away from it. But the Vilna Gaon doesn't look at that. The Vilna Gaon says the proper time is Tzeta Kochavim. That's the time you have to pray. Even on Shabbat, you cannot pray early. You always got to pray after Tzeta Kochavim. Okay? So he says, pray with that. Don't even go in that minyan. You have to pray alone. That's the Vilna Gaon. Okay. Now, the Bir Halacha notes that many poskim do not follow the Maaseh Rav here. That they say a person should pray Arvit early if everyone else is praying early. If you're not going to have a minyan afterwards. Rather, when the congregation davens early, one should daven with them and then repeat Kriyat Shema. The Mishnah Brura also brings up the opinion that perhaps when they're praying Arvit early, you pray the Amidah with them, but don't say Kriyat Shema or the brachot of Kriyat Shema. And then after we come to Tzeta Kochavim, you'll say the brachot and Shema. Because remember, we saw the Ravad brought down, the Raigon and said, you don't have to put Gul Tefillah on Arvit, right? They said, don't do that. So Mr. Brewer says, that's the way you should do it. And he says, as follows over here, the Mishnah, look at Piskei Shuvas. Mishnah Brewer brings the possibility that one can daven only Shemona Esrei with the shul. And this is what the Chavetz Chaim did himself. The Chavetz Chaim's town in Radin, they prayed Arvit early. Chavetz Chaim would not say Kriyat Shema, would not say the brachot, would say Shemona Esrei with them to daven Tefillah b'tzibur, and then after Tzedek Kochavim, he would say Shema with the brachot. That was his minhag. That's what he did. Either way, we see from all this, a person should not miss Tefillah with the congregation, not like the Maaseh Rav, and the person should pray with the congregation, whether he follows like the Mishnah Brewer or not. That's a different story. Okay, so you have here a nice chart on page 324. Page 324. What should an individual do? Daven everything with the congregation and repeat Kriyat Shema later? That's the Rashba. That's the Shulchan Aruch. Are we saying the brachot at the proper time? No, but that's okay because the brachot has nothing to do with Shema. Are you going to have Gula Tefillah? Yes. Are you having Tefillah B'Tzibur? Yes. According to the Ma'aser Rav, you never daven Arvit early. You always got to pray after Tet. So you're going to say the Brachot and Kriyat Shema together at the right time. You're going to have Gula Tefillah, but you might not have Tefillah B'Tzibur. Okay? So someone's losing something somewhere. What about the Mishnah Berurah? Daven the Amida with the congregation and recite Kriyat Shema Brachot later. Of Haigon, the Ravad, right? The Mishnah Berurah. So what are they gaining? What are they losing? They're saying Birkat, Kriyat Shema, and Shema at the proper time. There is no Gula Tefillah, but they are doing Tefillah B'Tzibur. So each one has something that's missing. We do like Shulchan Aruch. We pray Arvit early, say Brachot early, and we say Kriyat Shema. We repeat it later. Okay.
Is it halachically perfectly fine to just say during the bedtime Shema? Just have in mind to fill the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema with the bedtime Shema.
Good question.
So can we fulfill the Kriyat Shema? So we're going to see in halacha, they're going to want us to not do that. They're going to want us to say Kriyat Shema right after Tzedek Chavim, like Rabbeinu Yonah brought it.
So we have to follow him.
Yeah, you could be Yotzeh before going to sleep to say Kriyat Shema, but the issue with that is we say that we should really say Shema after Tzeit and before Chatzot. Okay? So what happens if I go to sleep late and it's after Chatzot? What's Chatzot today? 11 something, right? So easily people go to sleep at 12, right? So what's going to happen? You're going to be after Chatzot. So you're going to get, what's the whole reason they say you should pray Arvit before you go home? Because you go home, you're going to be Isaac in different things, and then you're going to forget to pray. It's the same thing with the chiyuv of saying Kriyat Shema. You don't want to go home and get busy and everything else, and then say Kriyat Shema, and you might forget to say it. You might say it after Chatzot. So therefore, the preferable way of doing it is to do it right after Tzeit. Right? And earlier the
unless
better.
a person says bedtime Shema always before Chatzot.
Okay, you can get away with it. But the person should try to say always after Tzeit, to repeat it. It's the proper way. We'll see. Let's now go to this. Now, what is the latest time for Kriyat Shema at night? Okay, so we had our Mishnah, our famous Mishnah on Daf Bet. The Mishnah goes that you can pray atil Chatzot, to the Seif Ashmura Rishona, till Chatzot, and that's the Chachamim. And then Gamil said you can say Kriyat Shema until a story happens. His sons come home from a wedding late. Can we say Shema? Can we say can't pray? And he says, what? We say this in the Haggadah? We say
the students come to the Rabbeinu. It's time for Shema.
That's Shema of Shachrit. This is Shema of Arvit. What are you talking about? Okay.
Similar story, but it's similar story.
Oh, I always understood that they're coming and saying that Higiyas man Shachrit shel Shachrit. They're saying Higiyas man shel Shema. No, what are they supposed to lashon there? It's not the nighttime Shema. My understanding it wasn't nighttime. Well, how do I understand that? Nighttime Shema or Shachrit Shema? Yeah, Higiyas man shel Shachrit, Shema shel Shachrit. They saying there. Shachrit. They were talking all night that they didn't even realize the morning came that they have to say Shachrit now. Say Shema. That's that. I got it. Unless you have a different version. I have to see it. Okay, fine. So Rabbi Gamliel's students, as children come home from a wedding, and it's after Chatzot, and they're like, "Oh, come and say we can only daven until Chatzot." And Rabbi Gamliel says, "True, that's what they say, but that's not what they mean. Really, you should pray before Chatzot. But if you didn't pray till Chatzot, you have to Amod HaShachar. You have until Alot HaShachar." And they say, "Is that your opinion or that's their opinion?" He says, "No, that's their opinion." And then they pray. Okay, and Shema and he says the Hikter Chalavim Va'avarim, burning up the fats and the limbs. Mitzvah even though they're a night mitzvah, you can do the holy Torah Amud HaShachar. You can do it before Chatzot, but if not, you can do it Amud HaShachar. Same thing with Shema. You have until Amud HaShachar. Okay, and the Gemara goes through this as well. Take a look at source 23. Halacha Rabbi Gamliel, and he had the whole story. Does Rabbi Gamliel saying it in the Shem the Chacham, do they agree with him? And we say that the rabbis agree with me. He says, Rabbanan kavati sevir luhu b'chayiv inatam, and your chayiv chatzais kedei leharchik adam min ha'avera. In order to keep a person away from avera for missing Shema, therefore they say to do it before chatzot. So now the Rishonim have three different approaches with the stringency of the Chachamim. Okay, how do you understand the Chachamim saying ad chatzot? What does that mean? So you have the first one, the Rashba. He says that what? Since the halacha has been ruled according to the view of Rabbi Gamliel, we see that even from the outset, one may delay Kriyat Shema until immediately before dawn. So according to the Rashba, since the Chachamim agreed with Rabbi Gamliel, you could go up to dawn. You can wait. Right? They just said Chatzot in order to keep you away from Simcha. They agree, and you can wait until dawn. The Rambam writes, Ezus man Kriyat Shema b'layla. From when? Mitzvasa mishas yitzias kochavim ad chatzi halayla. V'im over ichar, and he waited v'kara achlo al l'shachar yotzei dechavot shlo amru al chatzos el kidei lahachad min pshia. So his lashon is, its mitzvah is from nightfall until chatzot, and if you messed up, then you could still do it until Amud Shachar. So Rambam is saying you have until Chatzot. Okay, technically. Then Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah say, no. Beicham, Be'er Megamil, Kulu Humodu, Dilichatchila, Tzarech Likarsa Miyad B'tzeis HaKochavim. That fits what Rabbeinu Yonah said before. So Rabbeinu Yonah is saying the mitzvah, according to Rabbi Gamliel, mitzvah according to the Chachamim, is to say it right after Tzeis HaKochavim, and not wait. Not till Chatzot, and don't wait till Amud Shachar. You have until these points, but you shouldn't wait for them. You should do it right away.
The argument is, when is Lechatchila?
Right. So the Rashba says you got until Amud Shachar. Lechatchila, you can wait. Rambam says you have until Chatzot. You can wait. The Rabbeinu Yonah says you can't wait. You got to say it Achar take the Kochavim. Okay, that's the Rabbeinu Yonah. And you take a look, page 328. Then he says the same thing over there. One master cried Trima immediately. And the only question is, how far do they give you to? Right? And the Chum holding that even the Avad one can fulfill until midnight. Right? And the Rabbi Gamliel says the Avad Yotzei Kol Halayla. The up until Chatzot is B'di Avad, according to the Chachamim. Up until Amud Shachar is B'di Avad, according to Rabbi Gamliel. The Lechatchila, as soon as Tzedek Chavim comes out. All right? So what do we say in the Shulchan Aruch? Lechatchila, Sarach Likro Kriyat Shema Miyad B'Tzeit HaKochavim. As soon as nightfall hits, says the Shulchan Aruch. Bizmana, and its time is ad chatzi halayla, until midnight.
Person didn't have an Arvit.
What?
Person didn't have an Arvit.
He should pray Kriyat Shema early at Tzedek Chavim.
And then do Arvit later.
Him Ovar, and if he transgressed, Vichar, and it's late already, and it got delayed. Vikara at Shalom Shachar, Yotzei Dechavosov. He can still be Yotzei his Chova B'di Avad up until then. So Lechatchila, the Shulchan Aruch holds like Rabbeinu Yonah, which means is as soon as it hits nightfall, I say in Kriya Shema. And according to Rabbi Tzion said, what about if I'm planning to pray Arvit later? According to the Shulchan Aruch, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, I don't care when you're praying Kriyat Shema, when you're praying Arvit. Kriyat Shema should be said as soon as Tzedek Chavim hits. So today, Tzedek Chavim, according to our opinion, is 4:45. 4:45. You should have said Shema. If you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei, so as soon as after Shemona Esrei, you should say Shema.
Middle semester?
You say right after.
No.
So you finish Arvit. Well, we pray today Arvit at 4:40. Okay, so right, we prayed early. So let's say we didn't say Kriya Shema at 4:45. It was before 4:45. So right after Arvit, soon we finish, you say Kriyat Shema again. A lot of times, by the way, when we pray early, as soon as we finish praying, it already hit time for Shema. You can say Shema at that point right away. That's the time you should have said. Now, not to wait to go home and then this and then get busy and all that. Just not to do that.
What if the person is playing Arvit later?
That's
After
what we
learning,
just said.
10 o'clock, 9:30.
Based on what we're saying here, he should say Kriyat Shema, say Shema, Hafta, Vayomer, at Seita Kochavim, and then he does it again in Arvit when he prays it later.
That's the point of it.
Right? Shulchan Aruch seems to be saying the same thing. The Chatchil Tzarli Kol Kriyat Shema Miyad, Seita Kochavim. Okay, Mishnah Berurah says, Pirish the Rabbanan Gadru she'isur le'itacher b'kriyat Shema b'yoter mechatzot shelo avoy yedei michshol. Ve'mitacher mikre over al divrei chachavim. Aval at chatzot, it's not forbidden. El shelo nikra zaris. So Mishnah Berurah says, you can wait till chatzot. It's not usher to wait. So not like Rabbeinu Yonah, seems to be holding like the Rambam, right? You could wait. You don't have to say it right away. Just you're not considered a zaris.
In regards to 27, Shulchan Aruch, it says, "L'chatchila tzarich לקרוא קריאת שמע מייד אצל הכוכבים." But he says,
Zman al chatzi halayla. Yeah.
ואם עבר ואיחר וקראת שלא עמד על עמוד השחר, יצא ידי חובתו. So
Right.
he's referring to 3 times, and he says l'chatchila, and then he goes on until midnight,
Right.
and then he goes on to
Right.
dawn.
Right.
But he doesn't specify what is
Right.
the avad and
So he's saying
and he-
lichatchila.
right. Okay.
Did he say second lichatchila?
No.
No. So that's
Does he
it.
say the
So,
avad second?
so there's
Or
one
does he say third
there's
b'diavad?
one lichatchila. Everything else is b'diavad.
So why does he give two other stops?
To tell you, you still have the man to be yotzi. They chavoso, but it's
so
not.
if everything is the
No,
avad,
no, no,
so you should
no,
say-
no,
so
no,
forget Tzedek Kochavim.
no,
1 second.
No.
Forget Zmanat Chatzi Halayla. Just go till dawn.
no, because the chachamim say, right, the way Rabbeinu Yonah was learning it, the chachamim say b'diavad you have till chatzot.
Who said that?
According to Rabbeinu Yonah,
Right.
the chachamim say b'diavad is till chatzot.
Yeah, but the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say that.
But I'm telling you, the Shulchan Aruch is learning like the Rabbeinu Yonah. He
But it
says it,
doesn't. But it doesn't bring the
but he doesn't say the word
b'diavad.
b'diavad, but that's what he's meaning. What else does he mean there? Everything's like chatchila there.
No, okay, fine. So to tell me
So
the
you're
first time
saying-
is Lechatchila and everything else.
So
is
you're
b'diavad,
saying-
b'diavad.
So you're
why are
saying
you
ad
telling me both?
chatzot is also lechatchila. So there's 2 lechatchilas and 1 b'diavad.
Maybe.
So why doesn't he say? Why does he say 1 lechatchila and he doesn't say it second time?
Or maybe even
Ah.
all 3 are
No.
Lechatchila. It's just
No,
that-
it's
just
not.
you should
It's
do
not.
first.
It's not. Pasha not. Okay. Mishnah Berurah says you could wait until midnight.
Right.
That's what Mishnah Berurah says. The Shalos Teshuva or Letzion says, Adif, it is better. Litpalel b'yichidut lifnei chatzot laila. Ma'asher litpalel b'tzibor v'achar chatzot laila. Some people think I'm going to pray Arvit in the Minion factory. I'm going to go to Shomer Shabbos 2 o'clock in the morning and pray Arvit. Says Chacham Ben Tzir Nabba Shaul, remember, the most important halacha when it comes to tefillah is davening on time. And according to the Chachamim, the time for Arvit is up until Chatzot. So even if you have a 1:30, 2 o'clock a.m. minion for Arvit, no, you should not pray there. You should pray before Chatzot alone. Okay? So you don't need that after Chatzot Arvit. It's not helpful. According to Chacham Ben Tzir Nabba Shaul. Okay? Okay. Let's see a little further. What happens if a guy? What happens if a person didn't pray, and now it's almost Amud HaShachar, and he gets up? Oh, I didn't pray Arvit. So he can pray. And Tzadok Shem Bar Yochai, and Rabbi Akiva, there are times a person can say Shema twice during the day. Once right before Kodem HaNetzachama, V'achal HaNetzachama. You can say Shema once it's already dawn, after Amud HaShachar, and that could be for Arvit. And then after Netz, he says it for the morning, and he's fulfilled the night and the day. But when you do this, didn't daven Arvit. He woke up Amud HaShachar. Amud HaShachar today, 5:35. He woke up. Oh, didn't pray Arvit. Okay, pray Arvit between Amud HaShachar and Netzach Hama. Pray Arvit. Pray and don't say Hashkiveinu. Don't say Hashkiveinu. Hashkiveinu Avinu L'Shalom means you're putting me down to sleep. I'm getting up. And most people are getting up this time. You're not saying Hashkiveinu. Second to Shulchan Aruch, source 31. Hakar Kriyat Shema Shel Arvit Achar She'ala Amud Hashachar. After dawn already hits. Kaidim Metachama. Lo Yotzei Dechabasa Ela Imkain Hu Oines. On Anus, he has to be totally not. It happened by complete accident. For example, Kagoin Shichler, he was drunk. He had a party, got drunk, and woke up 5:35. Or Chayla, or he was very sick and he couldn't pray. Now, this guy who's in a very accidental situation, he won't say Hashkivenu. The Kiva Shalom the Shachar, Einuzman Shchiva. It's not the time to lay down.
Many people do go to sleep at that time.
What?
Many people do
No,
go to sleep at that time.
it's not Hashkivenu time.
It's
not Hashkivenu time.
You do that for what I do.
It's what the island does, what the world does.
Exactly.
The
So,
Shachachov, Mecha.
so people do go to sleep.
No,
at that time.
no. It's not the Derech Olam to sleep in the morning. It's
not morning yet.
It's not. Still not. People are not.
5:30 in the morning.
No, it's already late.
Dark
It's already late. You're supposed to be in the shul ready for Amud Shachar learning. All right? And Tanel has a shir here 5:30 in the morning, 5 minutes before Amud Shachar. You got to already be here early. Okay. The Amushara Bracha says the Ramah, the Hainu Shnaim Shel Bekishma, or Brichat Emet, Memet Duna, Al Hashkivenu, Omer. He says all the other brachot. Technically, you can say all the brachot of Kriyat Shema before and after Amud Shachar for Arvit. Very, very interesting case. Says the Aruch HaShulchan, this is only if he started drinking before the time of Arvit. Right, he got drunk. When did he get drunk? At 7 o'clock at night, when it was already time for Arvit? Then he's not anus. It's not an accident. Could have prayed Arvit beforehand. So he must have gotten drunk at 4 o'clock, when it's still before the time for Arvit. And then he woke up at 5 something. Then he can do the okay, Purim time. All right, fine. Says the Yalkut Yosef outside of the Tzurba for a minute. What is this? 335. 335. Here we go. 345 Gimel. Zman Kriyat Shema hu lechatchila achatzot halayla. Okay. So Reb Tzion says the Yalkut Yosef lechatchila until chatzot halayla. Okay. Ad chatzot. That's lechatchila. So he seems to be not exactly like the Lashon of the Shulchan Aruch. No, but it's not like the Lashon of Shulchan Aruch. He's saying he's going like the Rambam. Rambam said the Chatzil you have until Chatzot. Not like Rabbeinu Yonah. Shulchan Aruch seems to be going like Rabbeinu Yonah. Ve'im mit'akev ad achar Chatzot, and if he was delayed until achar Chatzot, kare Kriyat Shema in berchotel mitpal Arvit ad Amud Shachar, until Amud Shachar. Umi shaya anus ochole. V'lo yitpal Arvit ba'od laila. Uchvar Allah Shachar. Yikra Kriyat Shema berchotel. He says the brachot, everything after Amud Shachar. If he was actually an accident. Avalo Yomer B'Kat Hashkivenu, like Akbar said, and Shulchan Aruch said. They call him Sheitz Palo before he gets up to daven. He has to make it tonight, and he says, "Imani Yochel Itzpal Arvit Aksham Hein Derech Chayva, Ve'Hein Derech Tashlumin Hareinu Itzpala." If I'm supposed to daven Arvit now as an obligation or as Tashlumin, then fine. If it's not supposed to be like that, then Tiyeh Tfilat Nidava should be Tfilat Nidava, and then he prays Shacharit, and that day Achar Hanetz, right? I don't know. He makes that like if you're davening Arvit after Amud Shachar, you better be praying Shacharit at night.
You don't want to be like that.
Right. Yeah. Right. I guess at night we can get away with that, but not during the day. And it has to be on his gomer, completely on his gomer. Avatah Shagag, you forgot, you made a mistake, then you cannot pray Arvit after Amud Shachar. Rather, Yitpal Shacharit Shtayim, you make Tashlumin after Shacharit. Okay? That is regarding that. Now, subsequently talking about Lechatchila, here in the Al-Kijos, he says as follows. Lechatchila, Sarach Lekra Kriyat Shema Miyad, V'Tzeitek Achav. Right? Like, seems to be saying, like, Chacham Tzion here, it says, you have two Lechatchilas. All right? He says Lechatchila, you have until Chatzot Alayla. Here's Lechatchila Miyad, V'Tzeitek Achavim. V'chatchila roi lahachmer b'chol inyanim shehem mitzvah min haTorah. K'moy mitzvah kriyat shema she'arvit. V'chadayma la'asotam heichel yavshel la'achar shegi zman tzedgahom shel Rabbeinu Tam. Oh, and now he says the real time of the chatchila is Seita Kolchavim of Rabbeinu Tam. So not our 4:45, but 72 minutes later. Okay. No, not 5:17. More. Rabbeinu Tam. Right. So Rabbeinu Tam is about 5:46 today. Okay. That's the time for lechatchila of saying Shema, says Chacham Ovadia over here. V'lefigach im af im yitpal arvit lebod yom or la'achar shkia shelanu roi l'chzor v'lekro kriyat Shema la'achar she'avar zman Rabbeinu Tam. Once it's after the zman of Rabbeinu Tam, that's when you should repeat it. Interesting, Har. Over here you have a pen. I didn't write this one down, but this is an important one. Because we're talking about repeating it. When do you repeat it? Looks like you have to repeat it lechatchila after the zman of Rabbeinu Tam. Okay. Right.
Repeat.
No,
No, Kireno is a different story. Kireno is in the case that you didn't have it at all.
okay.
You wake up early in the morning, you get Edom Broma, Arvit Chonda. So now you daven Arvit, and you almost starting your day. It's Alot HaShachar. You say everything but Hashkiven, without Hashkiven. And then you continue on your day, because you don't go back to sleep, you slept already.
Because Mishakar Kriyat Shema Sharvit, someone who read Kriyat Shema Sharvit, but Istapek Im Karu Ben Hamashmashot, he doesn't know if he said it during Ben Hamashmashot or Balayla or after night. After Chavim, Ki Asamach Tzidik Chavim, Tzarech L'Chzar V'Lekar Kriyat Shema Bizmana. Since you're Misupek, you have to go ahead and say it again. Okay, you want to make sure you're saying it after nightfall, and we saw after nightfall of Rabbeinu Tam.
Joseph was asking what was the opinion of Ovadia in regards to Kriyat Shema Alamita. Is it real or
Is
Kriyat
it?
Shema?
Everybody's going to say it helps for Kriyat Shema. That's for sure. You're saying Shema on Aptikal Chavim.
Rabbeinu Yonah was.
No. Rabbeinu Yonah, what he said was L'chatchila, you should do it miyad. And the Chamavadi also said, and the Yaakov also said, L'chatzar L'kar Shema miyad. Tzitzikul Chavim. He's not arguing with that. He has another opinion that it's L'chatchila until Chatzot Halayla. Okay, fine, Rambam. But Kriyat Shema Alamita, as long as you're saying Shema Chatzikul Chavim, it's going to be Yotze, your Chayva, like you have until Amud HaShachar to say it. Yotze the Chavim. It's not the best way of doing it. Okay, but it could work. It works. Is it the best way? No, it works. Okay. Now we come to another. We have 15 minutes and we have a lot to cover, so we're going to do some like this. Let's listen. Source 33, 332. Guy walks into shul and he sees everybody's getting up to pray the Shemona Esrei of Arvit, and he walks in. What should he do? Shulchan Aruch says he should daven with them the Shemona Esrei, and then he goes back to Kriyat Shema and Barakot. Again, we saw over and over again, we're not so machmer or makbid of being so mechgeula l'tfila when it comes to Arvit. Are you going to have enough time? So then you daven Shemona Esrei with them. Okay? And you should just know, by the way, this also applies for regular tefillah when you walk in. If you walk in late and they're about to, like mincha, like this past Shabbat, I walked in Friday night. I walked in late. Okay? So if you saw, I didn't start, and I walked in by Nagdisha. It shouldn't have been, but whatever happened. I walked in by Nagdisha. You saw I didn't start my Shemona Esrei until after the Chazan said Modim. That's halacha, says Shulchan Aruch. If you know you're not going to finish Shemona Esrei before Modim, you shouldn't start, because you have to say Modim while they're saying Modim, and then you start Shemona Esrei. Right? If it's technically Modim, or it's Kedusha, maybe it's just Kedusha, but person if he still has time, it's still not Achar Azman, person should wait till Modim and then start his Shemona Esrei. People don't know that. People just walk in the middle of anywhere and just start Shemona Esrei. They have to wait. So the same thing here, he says. Ein hasha overet. You shouldn't daven unless the time is going to pass. And the kaddish refers to tefillah such as that of Arvit, where there's only a kaddish afterwards. Says the Rivot Ephraim, your question why the gun comes late and daven Shemona Esrei of Ma'ariv with the congregation. Is he permitted to speak between Shemona Esrei and now the Brikot of Kriyat Shema? Okay, so the guy came late. He said Shemona Esrei first. Can he now talk between Shemona Esrei, after finishing Shemona Esrei, and saying now Shema with the Brachot? Like, you say Brachot with Shema, you can't talk. Whatever I say, talk. He's not in the shul. They're davening outside. Okay, afterwards, he said, I asked her, going to Moshe Feinstein, and he said to me that one may interrupt between Shema Esrei and Kriyat Shema. And the proof is that they would daven early and afterwards say Kriyat Shema. Remember, we had the other opinions, the Ravad, we had the Rav Haigon, they said daven Shema Esrei, and then after Tzedek HaKavim, you go and say Shema. So all that time they didn't speak? No, they spoke. So you could speak in between. Okay, another question. What about clapping on the bima? So for mincha you can do it, no problem, because there's no someone who looks tefillah. Shacharit, you're never allowed to do it. Clapping, but screaming. Oh, I'm talking about screaming also. So not just that. The guy goes, Shacharit, you're not allowed to do it. Why? Because you'd be so much geula l'tefillah. Baruch atah Hashem, Ga'al Yisrael, Amonai Sefatai Tiftach. You can clap, but you can't say anything.
Some people say,
you can't.
Some people say,
You can't do that because you're so much geula tefillah. What about Arvit? What about Arvit? You can bang. But Arvit, can you say Yal B'Yavo after Kaddish? First time Shemona Esrei. So he says you could because again Arvit is a reshut. In fact, we've seen over and over again we're not makbid of so much geula tefillah. Perhaps that's why they even put Kaddish between the Birkat Kriyat Shema and Shemona Esrei to tell us that it's not like Shachrit. In Shachrit, there's no Kaddish in the middle. Some geula tefillah. Yeah. But in Arvit, we throw a Kaddish in the middle. By the way, you should just know not everybody says the Shamru B'nai Yisrael on Friday night. Okay? The Torah says we say B'Shamru B'nai Yisrael just the way Hashkivenu is a geula, aruchta, right? It's a long geula. Hashkivenu, Hashem, watch over us, right? All that. Geula aruchta means one big redemption, right? So he says B'Shamru, says the Torah, is also a geula aruchta. It's one long geula. Why? Because the Midrash says if you keep 2 Shabbosim, the Mashiach will come. Right? Comes the geula. So the B'Shamru Yisrael is part of geula. You should just know the Chabadnikim do not say B'Shamru on Friday night. And I believe what I read here also was the Vilna Gaon would not say B'Shamru Friday night because they would say you're messing up geula tefillah. You can't insert that. The real question is, by the way, the real question is, and we can't deal with this today, but the question exists, what are we doing on Yom Tov? Yom Tov, what are we saying? Elam Odei Hashem, Nikrei Kodesh. There is no midrash that says keep two Yom Tovs and Mashiach will come. There is no Geula Aruchta. It's not one longer a Geula. What are we saying? We're making a hefsek between Geula and Tefillah. All right. So maybe you could make a hefsek at an Arvit, perhaps. There are other answers. We're not dealing with it today. But it is. The Rishonim do deal with this. The Rishonim do deal with this. We'll deal with it a different day. Okay. It says the Sefer Hamani at Arvit. We have established Tefillah. Arvit is optional, and therefore we couldn't interrupt between Geula and Tefillah. And in fact, he says if people come in late, you can say Baruch Hu before Shemona Esrei. Says the Sefer Hamani. You can say Baruch Hu before Shemona Esrei. Says the Shulchan Aruch. Look inside Shulchan Aruch, source 39. Don't talk between Gula, the Arvit, the Tefillah. He says, even those people who say the extra bracha after Ashkivenu, Ein lahasik ben Yeru einenu l'Tefillah. Don't make it a hafsik between that bracha and Shemona Esrei. Umiu mashem achris shetzliach tibur. What does it say here? Rosh Chodesh ben Kal Shetfilat Arvit, that they announced Lo Havi Hefsek Kiva Shutzarach Hatfilah Chayochel Omar. Therefore, he can say Baruch Hu. You can say Baruch Hu before the Shemona Esrei of Arvit. Lahotzi Mishelo Shema Lo Havi Hefsek. No one ever does this anymore. No one ever does Baruch Hu before Shemona Esrei, but technically Shulchan says you can do that because it's not considered a hefsek because it's part of the tefillah, and people need to hear Baruch Hu. What do? Sfaradim, we always have Baruch Hu before Aleinu, right? So you didn't hear that. Ashkenazim, they do it after Aleinu, after Kaddish or whatever it is, they'll make a Baruch Hu. If you're late.
When I did that in Ashkenazim minyan before Aleinu, they run to stop.
Right.
Again, they fight.
Right. Well, don't worry. Don't happen by then. We call I'll come. Says the Magen Abraham. The same thing is true. The custom is to announce it, and Abdurraham also says that the custom is to announce and make announcements. Abu Draham, the father of the Draham. Remember his story? Next time we'll say it over again. He says it could be lenient. It's not like Shachri. So there is that. Says the Piskei Tshuvot, and he says in many shul this announcement is not practiced at all. Rather, the shamish just knocks, and when he reaches addition in his own prayer, he raises his voice loud. He does not say. So there are shuls that even at Arvit they do not speak in between Geula with Tefillah. Okay, so that is a practice by many.
What about that for Gabai?
So people today, you see what people do, and it says people do that. All right, let's just go a little further. Okay. So now we have a bracha that Ashkenazim have and we don't have. The truth is, we may have had that bracha too at an earlier point. That third bracha that they say after Kriyat Shema and Arvit, if you're praying in Ashkenaz shul, it take another 2 minutes after we say Ashkenazi, they have another whole bracha. This bracha is not found in the Talmud. Okay, it is a later institution. They came about, right? People were coming late to tefillah or stuff like that, and it got put in. According to some, by the way, they said that bracha and it has 18 psukim that 18 mentions of a name of Hashem's name. According to Tosfot, it was because when we'll leave shul until everyone to finish their late, everyone will catch up. So the verses with 18 mentions correspond to the 18 brachot of Shemona Esrei. Those who came late would say that bracha instead of saying Shemona Esrei. Somehow that bracha was instead of Shemona Esrei. Chabad still say it, but they cut it down halfway. I don't know what they do there, but they have a different way of saying that bracha. They exempt themselves from the prayer of Amidah through this Baruch Hashem La'olam, says the Orchat Chaim in Tefillot. Says Abu Draham, which many Siddurim follow today, we do not say this Baruch Hashem La'olam. We don't say this because we have to make some Geulah Tefillah. But we can't say an extra bracha there. He said, but the bracha, the custom is to say it, and since people say it, minig avatenu Torahi, and therefore it's done today. That's what the Abu Draham says. You shouldn't do it, but people do it, and it's fine. However, the Shulchan Aruch we saw already said, Yesh nohagim. There are those who say this bracha, right? So he said it as an af, as also there are people that say it. So today we do not say it. Sfaradim generally do not say it. And today the majority of Sephardic communities don't say it. Ashkenazi communities do say it. However, the Vilna Gaon did not say it. In the Vilna Gaon shul in Europe, they did say it. He did not say it. His shul did say it, but he did not say it. It's like many things that goes on, continues in the world, right? The Rav doesn't do it, but the people do it. But when his students came to Eretz Yisrael and they started making the shuls based on the minhagim of Vilna Gaon, they took it out. So therefore, in Eretz Yisrael, you'll find most Ashkenazic shuls are not saying this third bracha. In America, some Ashkenazic shuls do not say it anymore. All right, some Hasidim don't say it, and some modern Orthodox circles, the more left circles of modern Orthodoxy, do not say it either. Right, they pull it out as well. We Sfaradim pull it out as well, so they have what to rely on, pulling it out. Many places do not say it Motzei Shabbat. Many Hasidim don't say it Motzei Shabbat. Right, I don't know what the young Israel does on Motzei Shabbat if they say the third bracha or not. But I know Chassidim do not say that third bracha on Motzei Shabbat. Okay, woman in Arvit. Okay, we already saw according to Mishnah Berurah, women should pray Shachrit Mincha. Arvit is already Reshut, it's already pushing it, but if they want, they can. All right, that's where it holds. They don't have to, but if they want, they could. And then we come, and we have the last 3 minutes that we have. We'll deal with Kriyat Shema at the bedtime. Okay, Kriyat Shema at the bedtime is as follows. How much you have to say? Good question. Some say just the first, just for a hafta, Shema v'yahafta. Right? Some say no, you should say Shema v'yahafta and v'hayam Shemoah. Some say you should say all three. When do you say the bracha of a mapil? Okay. According to the Rambam, you say the bracha of a mapil, and then you say Shema. According to the Shulchan Aruch, first you say Shema, and then you say Hamapil, because a Hamapil has to lead into your sleep.
Okay.
Right. So according to Shulchan Aruch, but Chamavadia writes over here. His son writes in the Yalkut Yosef. What does it say to do? What? Your phone says first Hamapil. If your phone said it, there's nothing to ask. Your phone said it, it's got to be golden. Okay. His phone said it. He can't argue. Okay. So he says over here in the Yalkut Yosef, you have to say with Hashem's name. You shouldn't speak anything between your bracha and sleep. Zulat b'psuke kriyat shema, except for kriyat shema. The sharp psukim shebesudurim. V'im avar v'dibar, if he spoke, ein birchato levatala. It's not a bracha levatala, even if you did speak. Vein tzarich la'chazav v'devar klal. You don't have to go back and read again. If you have to drink, you can drink. You can say the bracha, no problem. You're allowed to do anything you have to do. You're going to yell, if you go and tell the kid, keep quiet, you can do that too. You can say Asher Yotzar. Achar shibarach hamapil minhago, and our minhag levarach hamapil koydem kriyat shema. So not like the Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam. Okay, like your phone. You learned it from your phone. Very good. Okay, you learned it from your phone. Ramah says you should not eat, drink, or talk after kriyat shema at the bedtime. But we saw already that if you have to, you could. Piskei Tshuva brings it down. It's permitted to interrupt if you have to. Okay, again, I brought down the Rif says only the first section of Shema. Ben Chanal says the first two sections. Some say all three sections. And the Mishnah Berurah says it's good to say all three. And we'll finish up over here with one last piece over here. HaKoreh Kriya Shema Lamita Adif Sheyisayem Hashem Elokechem Emet Kidei Lahashlim Leminyan Yamel Chivarim. We already saw that it's mentioned, always say Hashem L'Kechem Emet, repetition rather than saying Kel Melech Ne'eman, right? But girls should say both. Uminhagenu Hashit She'armim Gimel HaParshiyot Shel Kriyat Shema Gam BeKriyat Shema Shalamita Ubifrat Im Hitpalalu Arvit Mibod Yom. Especially if you prayed Arvit during the day and you didn't say Kriyat Shema Miyat Tzedek Chavim, so you're definitely, in order to cover yourself, always say three sections in the Kriyat Shema Alamita. Tam v'nishlam, Todel el bari olam. We finished volume 15 of the Tzurba upon us. That means next week we start Hilchot Shabbat. Okay? Next week we start Hilchot Shabbat. Be'ezrat Hashem. Malkiel, I sent the swarm over. I don't know if you got it yet. You got it.
I got it. Thank you.
Okay, beautiful.
Yes.
Malkiel, where'd you pick it up from?
From Rabbi Avner.
Your mother-in-law gave it.
Brother gave it. Okay, it should be Rabbi Avner.
Malkiel, can you bring it? Are you gonna go back to the shul or no?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Can you pick it up and give it to my dad or something? Can you?
To your dad. Okay, yeah. Bring it, yes.
All right, you guys will figure it out. The Asher Co-op next week, volume 16, Rabotai. Let people know and send them up. We're gonna have Bezat Hashem 2 years of learning. Good stuff.
Thank you, Rav.
All right, if you come here, we're gonna have food.
What is the
All right. I'll try to deliver you the food too. We'll see. שבוע
Just
טוב.
have כוונה.
שבוע טוב.
היי.
שבוע טוב.